Thank you so much. And now to Loveness. Loveness, you can take it on. Loveness, go ahead, moderating. We can't hear you, Loveness. We can't hear you. Go ahead, Loveness. Loveness. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are listening to us. I am guessing Loveness is having technical challenges. So I'm going to request Loveness to try again to join. Okay, she's trying to join again.
Where you connect from?
Yeah, now we can hear you, Loveness. You can go ahead.
If you all confirm.
Loveness, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you are connecting us from. Now you can hear me clearly. My name is Loveness Muzuru. I am from Zimbabwe, and I'll be your moderator for this session today on amplifying the voices of girls and young women on access to education and gender equality, mainly focusing on the SDG 4 and SDG 5. So thank you so much. You are welcome on this platform today. So as we kickstart our session today, we're just going to move on as quickly as possible as we are trying to manage our time, which is going to be just an hour and a half of your time today. So I'm just going to start by inviting our panelists, our Mr. Samuel Noja from the Director of Plan International to give us a brief of opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Loveness. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining from. Allow me first to congratulate the Breakfree Consortium and its technical partners for organizing this event, and especially at the margins of the 8th Regional Forum on Sustainable Development to be held this week in Kigali. As we all know, the annual Regional Forum provides an opportunity and a platform for us to review progress made on the Sustainable Development Goals, and especially also on the AU Agenda 2063. And I believe we all know the forum also provides space for stakeholders, especially to share experiences on policy options and actions to accelerate the implementation of Agenda 2063 and the SDGs. As Loveness mentioned, the theme for this side event is amplifying the voices of girls and young women to access education and also gender equality, with reference to SDGs 4 and 5, and also judging from the insight from the panelists and especially from the Breakfree Alliance. Now, this is intended to focus our attention on the nexus between gender and education, and particularly in the context of addressing gender COVID-19 pandemic. Now, we continue to witness the negative impact of COVID-19 on girls and young women, especially around education and gender-based inequalities and unacceptable forms of abuses in our societies. And as stakeholders meet in Kigali between the 3rd and the 5th of March, today's event is to provide opportunity for us to feed into that event, and especially with recommendations from us to to accelerate the achievement of SDGs and also the AU Agenda 2063, especially as they relate to education and gender. Now, as our panel leads the discussion on the theme, it's important to remind ourselves of the commitment made towards achieving SDGs 4 and 5 under the SDG and also the AU protocol. And especially, I would want to highlight a few. One of them is to provide space and opportunity for girls and young people to monitor the implementation of the SDGs in the AU agenda, eliminate child and early and forced marriages, ensure women full participation and effective participation and equal opportunity for leadership, achieve universal access to sexual and reproductive health and rights, and also eliminate gender disparities in education and ensure equal access to education. Now, whilst we reflect on the devastating impact of COVID and the double nexus of education and gender, it's important to recognize and also underscore the commitment and measures put in place by AU member states and other governments to address the impact of COVID on girls and young women. Now, countries continue to report progress they are making and efforts they put in place to address and contain the impact of COVID, whilst addressing the challenges of quality education and gender-based violence. Now, we all know that despite all these efforts and the progress made in responding to COVID-19 pandemic, there's a lot that needs to be done to promote access to quality education and gender equality. And so, can you allow me to highlight a few of them, especially the need to implement measures and legislations that address gender-based violence. We also need to provide equal access to education and support vulnerable families through national safety net. We need to institute measures to ensure that all children, especially those of school-going age, and especially girls, have been supported to go back to school, and ensure that girls who unfortunately became pregnant during the lockdown and school closures are able to return to school safely. Now, in conclusion, PLAN and the Breakfree Alliance will continue to support government effort towards achieving the aspirations of the SDGs 4 and 5 and also the AU Agenda 2063. Now, we would also want to use our platforms and our networks and our collective action to amplify the voices of girls and young women to access education and gender equality. And I believe as the panel discusses the topic, it would also provide us an opportunity to contribute to what we would want the leaders and the stakeholders who meet in the next 2 days in Kigali to do, especially to make sure that we are accelerating progress toward the achievement of SDGs 4 and 5 and also the AU Agenda 2063. Thank you very much, and hope that we all engage in this process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sama, for the warm opening remarks. So we'll move on. If we have Dr. Nyarazai on the call, if you are also connected, we invite you to give your opening remarks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam Loveness Muzuru. I was trying to put my video on, and my video is muted. It's my pleasure to join this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I wanted you to see the flower, which I wanted to show my video so that I can show the flower, which is my symbol of amplifying and reaching out to the voices and experiences of young women and girls across the continent. Let me start by appreciating the Breakfree Consortium. Thank you so much to PLAN, to SAT, to FAWE, and to the Dutch government for the support for which Rosaria Memorial Trust is a partner. I have been requested to make a few remarks, and I have 4 key points. We cannot achieve all the other MDGs, SDGs in a sustainable way, in a long-term perspective, if young people if girls and young people are not educated, they are not healthy, and they live in a world of inequalities, including and especially gender inequalities. So inequalities and gender inequalities undermines the achievement of all the other SDGs. And if we do not invest in the education and health of girls and young women, it means we are having a very short-term perspective to what we seek to achieve. I therefore wish to, at the outset, raise a couple of issues which have continued to bother me. First is, we continue to be in a COVID-19 response context. We still are in the context of COVID-19. Programming for COVID-19 must strongly integrate education for women and girls and addressing, especially for those living in rural communities. At the moment, I am in Murewa in rural Zimbabwe, and we are seeing the numbers of girls who have dropped out of school, who have experienced teenage pregnancy, and who are struggling to rebuild their lives. So we must really ensure and encourage our governments to integrate education and rights into the COVID-19 response package in a very strong way. As we monitor COVID-19, we also need to monitor the indicator around education and child marriage. Secondly, it is critical that as we implement and support the monitoring of the SDGs, there's a lot of emphasis on the national reports, the national voluntary reports, emphasis on the regional and the global. But for many of us, and for me on my work with the AU on child marriage, we need community
Thank you.
Hi, Madam Nyarazai, are you there?
What do you think about that, Magna?
Hi, Madam Nyarazai, are you with us? I think we have lost you. Madam Nyarazai has left. I think we'll give her time later on to finish up with her 2 points. She had done 2 points. She had 4. So, so we're going to move on. Is Loveness with us? Loveness, you can move on. Loveness? Okay, Loveness, I think, is also having challenges. So next, we are going to invite Madam Frecia Kago from FAWE to just give us a background on what we are talking about, Sustainable Development Goals and girls and young women. What does it really mean to us? So I'm just going to invite Frecia, and kindly, our host, I will kindly request that you upgrade her and you allow her to make a presentation. Frecia?
Thank you, Jennifer. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Good afternoon. I'm not so sure that there is a good evening, but thank you for the chance to really just build on I'm not really saying anything new. I'm generally going to build on what Sam and Dr. Nyarazai was actually, maybe just pick up from where she left. Really, as the Breakfree Alliance, it is important for us to amplify the voices of the girls and young women, and particularly also focusing on the youth. SDG 4 is on education. Generally, it just states that we need to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and to promote lifelong learning opportunities for all by 2030, which is when we all expect to meet the objectives of the SDGs. So why is this SDG important? And I think Dr. Nyarazai had started by stating that every goal in Agenda 2040 requires education for us to be able to empower people with the knowledge, the skills, the values, for them to live in dignity, to build their lives and to contribute to their societies. Today, Africa has the highest youngest population in the world, with 70% of sub-Saharan Africa actually being under 30. So for us to really harness the dividend of having such a young population, we must invest in the education, because we know for sure education allows them to break the cycle of poverty, for them to be able to actually take their position and support themselves and their families. Ironically, today, as you look at our budgets, this year the African Union's theme is around food, nutrition, and sustainability, and looking at the economic and social cultural rights. But even as we speak about the food, nutrition, and the food security, if we go back to our governments and look at our budgets, we're investing. We're saying we have a young youth, 70% of our population, but the biggest percentage of our budget ideally or ironically goes towards security and defense. So for us, why this conversation is important is realizing that this percentage of youth, we must be able to equip them with the necessary skills for them to really, take up Africa and build Africa, because they are our future. To simply put it, the youth are our future. If we look at the framework for the implementation of Sustainable Development Goal, that is, Goal 4, which is SDG 4 in education, it generally calls for, among others, for states to really increase their domestic funding. It also calls for states to strengthen the existing multi-stakeholder partnership, which is why for us, even if you look at this panel from the Breakfree Alliance perspective, we have the governments, we are looking at the AU, we are looking at civil society, because we know education or SDG 4 and 5 requires more than just us as a civil society or as a coalition, but it requires everybody to bring their skills and technical expertise to the table for us to really tackle and build Africa's potential. When we look at the indicator for SDG 4, it generally, the first indicator actually states that by 2030, we are meant to ensure that all girls and boys actually complete free, equitable, and quality primary and secondary education, leading to relevant and effective learning outcomes. I'm not so sure whether, looking at the 8 years we have to go, we really are going to achieve free education, not just primary, but also secondary. But it's also, this indicator is also telling us it's not just free, it has to be equitable. And we're looking at it also being primary and also both secondary. So for us, as I said, Jennifer said, I work in the Forum for African Women Educationalists, commonly known as FAWE. SDG is at the heart of what we do. We do believe in the girl child, that they have potential, and that when we educate her, she's able to take up her place and break the cycle of poverty and contribute to Africa's economy and take up her rightful place in society. And for us, we will continue to do this through our demonstrative intervention, such as gender responsive pedagogy, which is one of our manuals that we use to actually link up and train teachers on how to incorporate or gender education, make sure that the education system actually takes into account the hardships or the difficulties that the girl child has actually got to go through for her to be able to take her place or learn. And also we continue to do this through our partnerships and collaborating, whether it is with the governments, the AU, civil societies, and also with the civil societies and RECs. And most importantly for us, that's why we are in the programs such as the Breakfree Alliance, which, as we had noted in the introduction, that its role is to have adolescents exercise their right to live free from teenage pregnancy and child marriage with the support of civil societies. And which is why I know I am setting the scene for the panelists who will be coming in to give us insights on what is happening in the different countries, what it is that they're doing, whether as governments, as civil societies, and where it is that we can all come in, since we are agreeing that for us to really take education and make sure that the girl child actually takes her place, we all must come in and we all need to collaborate and make sure that there is multi-stakeholders partnership. So Jennifer, I will take it back to you and really looking forward to hearing from our different panelists.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Frecia. That was amazing. And it's true, for us to be able to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, we need to have everybody contributing, and that includes girls and young women. And that's why the reason we are having this amazing panel. Talking of young women, our moderator, Loveness, I think she's back. She was having power cut challenges, and I think she is back. Loveness, are you back? Loveness? I think she's still having challenges.
Hi, Loveness will be back. I think she's reconnecting. We lost electricity. So
okay.
you can continue, but she's coming.
Okay. So as Frecia said, we have a power-packed panel of made up of young people and government officials from different parts of Africa, and we are going to discuss this particular topic. So I'm going to very quickly make a quick introduction to our panel, and then hopefully Loveness would have joined by then and she can take over. Number one, we have Mr. Trevor Hamela, Deputy Director of Children Affairs from Ministry of Gender, Malawi. Welcome, Mr. Hamela. Next, we have Miss Victoria A. I don't want to mutilate your name, so can I skip the Abatayo, from Global Partnership for Education, GPE, representative to the African Union. Welcome, Miss Victoria. Next, we have Mr. Elias Girma from Planning and Resource Mobilization Director, Ministry of Education, Ethiopia. Welcome, Mr. Girma. Next, we have Mr. Minyamir Yatia. I hope I have pronounced that correctly. He is the Women Empowerment Team Leader at the Ministry of Women and Social Affairs in Ethiopia. And then we have Miss Awadusa Tilahu, who is a youth advocate from Ethiopia. Thank you. Welcome, Miss Tilahun. Sorry if I mutilate your name. And then we have Miss Princess Lovia Tate from Love Aid Foundation and youth advocate from Ghana. Welcome, Miss Tate. And then we have Mr. Francis Atipei, youth advocate from Ghana. Welcome, Mr. Atipei. And thank you so much. I am so excited about this panel because I love hearing from young people. I tell guys, if I was Superman, I get my energy from just listening to young people, you know. They just give me energy. So I'm going to start. Just going to check if Loveness is back. Loveness, are you back? Not yet. So I'm going to start with Mr. Hamela, the Deputy Director from Malawi. And I just want to understand, are there formalized task force involving non-state actors, or as well as young people, or especially girls and young women, throughout the SDG implementation review and follow-up processes? Can you just tell us, how do you ensure meaningful participation of girls and young women in these processes, especially the BNR, voluntary national review? What are you doing as a government to ensure that there's increase of participation and involvement of girls and young women? Mr. Hamela? Mr. Hamela, I think I saw you. You can go ahead. we can't hear you. Our host kindly could give co-host status to Justin. It's written Justin. Yes. Mr. Hamila, we can't hear you. I think, Mr. Hamila, we can't hear you. I think as Mr. Hamila is sorting out that issue, Mr. Hamila, as he's sorting that issue, I'm just going to go ahead to the next panelist, Victoria. Victoria, if you're there, please lift up your hand. I think I saw you earlier.
Yes, I'm here. I can't open my camera, but I'm here.
Yeah, I think please, host, please upgrade Miss Victoria to co-host. Sorry, guys, because of security reasons, we cannot allow everybody to use their cameras. So apologies for that. Miss Victoria, as we are getting upgraded, so how does gender equality, okay, child marriage, advocates, including young women, can engage effectively with education sector in their countries to help them address barriers to girls' education? Manya Rizai earlier said we cannot achieve sustainable development goals if you're not going to educate our girls, especially post-COVID, where a lot of girls have dropped out of school because of child marriage, teen pregnancies. How can we ensure gender equity, okay? Including young people to engage effectively with education sector in their countries? Ms. Victoria?
Thank you so much, Loveless, for the introduction and for posing this question to me. And I wish to firstly thank Fairway and the Breakfree Alliance partners for having me here today. It's a great honour to be here to reinvigorate our efforts to advance progress on girls' education and gender equality in Africa by amplifying the voices of young women and girls, both in terms of the SDGs, the SDG 4 and 5, which is our main focus today, and Agenda 2063. And personally, I can't wait to hear from the young people and what they have to say, in addition to countries that are present on this panel. Now, every year is a critical year for girls' education, but particularly in recent years with the pandemic, as was highlighted by Dr. Naradzai. Nearly 130 million girls were out of school before COVID across the world, and 20 million more girls may be out of school by the time it eventually ends. And we hope that it ends pretty soon. But the end doesn't necessarily seem completely in sight. So the urgency is big. And as Dr. Naradzai said, gender equality and lack of access to education really does undermine all the other SDGs. We know that child marriage and teen pregnancy are key drivers of girls being out of school. And as African leaders begin to rebuild from the pandemic and during the pandemic, as GPE as a global organization, we play a vital role in ensuring that girls' education is at the heart of government education sector plans, especially given the historic outcome of our Global Education Summit in July last year that was co-hosted by UK and Kenya. Now, let me just quickly tell you a little bit about the organisation that I work for. So GPE is the largest global fund dedicated solely to transforming education across the world, and is also a unique multi-stakeholder partnership. And it's that multi-stakeholder partnership that I want your audience to go away with. We work with our country partners, so ministries of education, and other actors to transform education systems and reach the most marginalized and vulnerable children and adolescents, particularly girls. Now, that's why gender equality is at the heart of our strategy, which is called GPE 2025. And it's an approach to transform education systems. Gender equality is hardwired across all our operations and activities. And this includes working with countries to strengthen gender responsive planning and implementation for system-wide impact. Now, we can't achieve these goals alone, and for girls around the world to lead healthy, safe lives and be empowered to achieve their full potential, we must work together across sectors to build an ecosystem of laws, policies, and institutional support that puts gender equality and girls' education at the center to keep girls safe and learning. Now, child marriage and the exclusion from school of girls that fall pregnant is a key barrier to achieving education for all. It reinforces inequality and inequity and leads to so many girls dropping out of school. And when girls are pulled out of school to get married or are not allowed to return to school, their children are more likely to have worse nutrition. Fresia mentioned that this is the year of nutrition for the African Union. Well, when girls are not in school, their children are more likely to have worse nutrition outcomes, lower immunization rates, lower enrollment in school, and worse school performance than children of educated mothers. Now, education is a key imperative measure, a key preventative measure, against child marriage, and can enable a girl to turn her life around after falling pregnant when she's allowed to continue her education. So working across sectors, including education, is critical. COVID has shown us that schools are more than just a place of learning. They also provide health and social services and community support and help protect girls from child marriage, unwanted pregnancy, and gender-based violence. Extended and intermittent school closures in response to COVID, which so many of our countries have had to put in place, have put millions of more girls at risk, in fact, 10 million more girls at risk of child marriage around the world. And 30 million more girls could be forced into early marriage by struggling parents over the next decade, and millions more are likely to get pregnant. Now, promoting gender equality in and through education is central to upending the harmful gender stereotypes and social norms that underpin these barriers to girls' education. So if the pandemic has taught us anything, it's that we must radically rethink how we build education systems and transform them to reach the most marginalised, particularly girls. So at GPE, we're making efforts to work across sectors to ensure girls are educated, healthy and safe. And civil society and activists and young people have a critical role to play in building cross-sector synergies to tackle the root causes of child marriage, teen pregnancy, and to advocate to governments to invest in girls' agency through education, health, protection, and livelihood so girls realise their full potential. And also to look at how do you actually change social norms and to share promising models and to share learning across different sectors. Now at GPE, we work to strengthen education policy dialogue through a single government-led coordination mechanism that we seek to render more inclusive. We use the term local education group as a common name for these groups that in reality have different names and different forms. And some of our country partners on this panel today may mention the local education group in their country. Now, these exist in most countries and should include the participation of civil society, teachers' organizations, the private sector, other actors, including young people through civil society. Through representation in these groups, civil society help develop and monitor government-led education sector policies and plans and can give feedback to government, grant agents or local education group if they have information and evidence on implementation issues, including the type of policies they want to see, the type of evidence they have to demonstrate the type of policies that will be important to advancing progress on girls' education and making their voices heard, including on issues related to the National Voluntary Review process. GPE's Education Out Loud fund is the world's largest education advocacy and social accountability fund, and it supports civil society organizations in more than 60 countries, including many of the countries that are part of the Breakfree Alliance. It strengthens civil society to influence education policy to better meet the needs of communities, including ensuring education systems are gender responsive. Now, we've committed around 72.8 million to CSO partners in these 60 countries and helping them to be active and engaged and to influence in shaping the education policy dialogue to meet the needs of vulnerable populations, including girls. So 20% of the grants focus on gender, and EOL initiatives also advocate on child marriage, adolescent mothers, and improving financing for girls' education, as well as youth-led and youth-centered projects. A number of the grants are youth-led and youth-centered. And EOL also enhances civil society capacity, as I said, to engage in sector policy dialogue, planning, monitoring, and to promote transparency and accountability in national education. GPE also works with youth activists through our Youth Leaders Group to amplify the voices of young
Ms.
people
Victoria.
in decision-making and to improve access to girls' education. So these are just some of the mechanisms that civil society and young people can use
Victoria.
in order to influence the policy dialogue at national level. So let me hand over to you. Let me hand back over to you, Loveness, because I think I've run out of time.
Thank you.
Back over to you, Loveness.
Thank you so much, Victoria, and for those I agree with you totally. And I'm thinking our young lady, Loveness, is still having internet challenges. They had a power cut earlier. So next, Mr. Hamera tells me he's online, but I can't hear him. Mr. Hamera, can you hear me? We can't hear you, Mr. Hamera. So I'm going to move to our next panelist, Mr. Elias Girma from Ethiopia, the Planning and Resource Mobilization Director, Ministry of Education in Ethiopia. I'm going to ask you, I love Ethiopia, but I'm missing Injera. I can't wait to come there. How do we ensure meaningful participation of girls and young women in the process of VNR, voluntary national reviews? What initiatives, as government, are you planning to increase and to involve girls and young women and to build sustainable partnership on this issue, where girls and young women are not just by the way, but they are partners with government to ensuring that this reporting is happening, and also the girls and young women are being involved in the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. Mr. Girma? Mr. Girma, are you there? I saw you earlier. Mr. Girma. Mr. Girma, are you with us? Okay. I'm going to check one more time if Mr. Hamera is there. I think it even just dropped off. Mr. Girma, are you there with us? Not there. Thank you so much. The next person is Mr. Minyamir Yitayir from Women's Empowerment Team Leader, Ministry of Women and Social Affairs. Same question. Thank you so much, Mr. I have seen you. Same question. How do we ensure meaningful participation of girls and young women? Okay, and where young girls and young women are partners. Okay, in reporting, in monitoring, and implementation of Sustainable Development Goals. Mr. Minyamir. Go ahead, Mr. Minyamir. You need to unmute yourself.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are you hearing me?
We can hear you, but you're very faint. I think you need to increase volume on your machine, or if you're using earphones, you disconnect them. Mr. Minyamir?
Hello?
Yes, you are much better. Thank you. You can go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon. Could you repeat the question, please?
Okay, the question is, how do you ensure meaningful participation of girls and young women in the process of voluntary national review? Okay. What initiatives have you planned by government, as government, to increase involvement of girls and young women and build a sustainable partnership on this issue between girls and young women, where young women and girls are not just a by the way, but they are part of the process in the not only the VNR, but also in the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. And for you, I would want you to go ahead and go and talk about both rural and urban girls. So how do you ensure as government, and also how do you build their capacity to participate in these processes?
Sorry, Jenny. Sorry for interjecting. I just wanted to mention that this question is meant for Ato Elias from the Ministry of Education. For Myanmar, it's a different question. Maybe let me ask it now. So, as a critical pathway towards achieving gender equality, what are the approaches undertaken by the ministry to build capacity and enhance women and girls leadership in both urban and rural areas? Thank you.
Okay.
Over.
Okay, thank you, Elias. Let me go to the question which is raised by the Nata. Actually, from the beginning, the Ethiopian government is targeted to bring at least women and young girls to have 50% share of representation across all organs of the government in the 10 years perspective plan of the government. So to ensure that, I think the Ethiopian government believes that ensuring women representation in leadership positions as a core approach to bring desired result on all outcomes of gender equality, specifically on economic and social empowerment. So in this case, the government, we have different programs, and as a government, we have many approaches to bring women representation in leadership. The first one is about creating enabling environment that create enabling environment for women to engage in leadership positions. The second one is building capacity building programs, and we have also an approach of establishing and strengthening women networks and partnership. And the other one is about tackling social norms and other socioeconomic barriers. So with this regard, what we have done is about especially to women leadership, we have short-term and long-term leadership capacity building program. From the short-term program, we have done a capacity building program, especially for women aspirant leaders, specifically focused on transformative leadership and decision making. And the objective of this training is just to address competency and socio-cultural barriers of that women are facing on regard to leadership positions. And the other ones we have also just what the other approach is about, we have women network, we have a platform of women networking, both in rural and urban areas. From the urban area, we have a women development groups, which is a comprised of women living in neighborhood situation. So these networks are one of the platforms which women and girls voice their voice and their concern to the concerned body. This is one of the platform we have at the ground level, and we have also African Women Leadership Network already established in Ethiopia. This is functioning right now at this moment, and parallelly we are planning to organize Young Women Africa Leadership Network as a branch here. Probably it will be by the next month, like that. So we have a platform of that bring young girls and women in the connect platform. The other one is also we have also a program of young girls mentorship network, mentorship program at education, at higher education level. We have a piloted program in the 5 higher education. So the aim of this mentorship program was once to ensure to avoid dropout of school, and also to ensure the competency level of young girls. And the other one is also the other objective is also to address barriers that women, that that the higher education girls are facing, specifically stage 2 sexual reproductive health and child marriage, like that. And we have also that type of program. And the other one is also actually I was mentioned that we have a big capacity building program on women leadership, both in rural and urban area. This is what we have right now. Hello.
Thank you so much, Mr. Minyamir. Thank you so much for the short, for the remarks. Next, Mr. Hamira, are you being able to join in? Are you okay now?
Yes, I'm here, but I don't know whether you can hear me.
We can hear you now. Thank you. Go ahead. You have 2 minutes because this function is timed, so we need to finish up on time. Go ahead. 2 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you so much. Malawi is one of the countries that is indeed pursuing to the achievement of the SDG 4 and 5. And indeed is one of the countries that is being affected by the issue of child marriage. And 3, if not 4 strategies that were adopted by the government, one of which is the aspect of assuming leadership, so that all partners working on issues of promoting girls' education and also addressing child marriage are coordinated, guided, provided with that kind of leadership. The second issue is that of working with communities, because most of the issues affecting girls and women happen in community setting, and the aspect that we realize as a country is to ensure that we engage community leadership to work with the children and women in addressing the problems that affect them. The other third aspect is that of the women and the children engagement, which of course is mushroomed under the umbrella of the participation itself. So let me mention that as a country we have several structures where the participation of civil society and including the women-led institutions are involved. First and foremost, we have what we call the National Ending Child Marriage National Task Force, where we have the civil society organization, the government institutions, including the participation of the child-led institutions. Under this kind of institution, or rather organization, we have so many agenda items or roles and responsibilities. One is to issue the issue of social advocacy for the transformation of harmful norms that are basically seen to be key. We have learned this because the girls themselves and women have actually witnessed to say there are a lot of harmful norms and practices that actually affect their education issues. But also the aspect of promoting education and economic opportunities for girls and women. We've noted that most of the girls and women have ended up into child marriage and also in teen pregnancies because of lack of economic challenges. Like when COVID hit in 2020, we did an assessment throughout the country where we learned that over 45,000 girls were impregnated, but around 20,000 girls as well were entered into child marriage. Some of the underlying factors were those of the economic hardship that we are facing, but also the temporary closure of schools had affected them quite a lot. As a matter of addressing it, their engagement and involvement was seen to be an issue, and they lobbied that if capacity building and empowerment could be, or some of the issues to be included, and also involving them in issues of behavior change by employing the behavior change communication strategies at all levels, not only in communities, but also within their school education systems. This was actually raised by the children themselves. Let me also mention that Malawi is one of the countries that is promoting child participation, and at national level, we have what we call the National Children's Parliament, where children of ages 10 to 18 are involved, and they are given space to air out their concerns and challenges. We received the directive from the head of state to roll out the issues of child participation to all the districts. I'm happy to report that last year alone, we involved around 4 other districts, or rather around 6 districts, where children's parliament were engaged. So they developed very good resolutions in terms of how the SGD 4 and 5 can be promoted. One of the views that others would hold is possibly maybe just to provide bursary education to the girls, but the girls did mention, for example, in Mzimba and Zomba, very good sanitary facilities. We need good toilets. We need washing facilities for us to attend education properly. All these resolutions were taken and shared before Parliament. Let me also mention that as part of engaging the girls and the children, our National Assembly, the Parliament, opened up a space where there's an interface between the children and the members of parliament themselves, so that the issues that children and the girls are facing can directly be raised to the policymakers. So it's one of the good development that Malawi has set aside, whereby the views of the children themselves and even the girls themselves should be taken seriously. Let me also mention that every 2 years, Malawi hosts what we call the Girls Symposium on ending child marriage. So we hold this kind of symposium by allowing organizations that implement programs, those who do policies, those that are responsible for law enforcement, to sit together and share ideas. It becomes very interesting because girls are usually given that kind of space for amplifying their voices. This year, last year we hosted one in November where the girls themselves had indeed challenged most of the policymakers and implementers just to showcase the deep-rooted challenges that they face. And in fact, they identified gaps in terms of how our laws are being implemented. One of the issues that they observed was the fact that, yes, child marriage is illegal in Malawi. For example, people below the age of 18 are not allowed to enter into marriage. But then they discovered, most of us would never realize that that was a challenge, but they actually challenged us to say, we don't have penalties for those that are allowed to marry off children below the age of 18. They are not being penalized because the law is a bit silent. So you can see that the engagement of the youth, the women and the children would give you a different perspective that needs to be appreciated. So I think from our case, we can proudly say that we have a lot of structures where the women and the children are usually engaged. One of them is that I've already mentioned, the National Ending Child Marriage Task Force. But also we have what we call the National Technical Working Group, where technical issues are basically discussed. We may assume that there's one strategy that is working, but perhaps when it is leveled or medicalized.
Please wrap up.
Thank you. Hear me? Yes, I'm wrapping up. Just to wrap up and sum it all, I would say that the provision of space for the women and girls remains critical, but I think it has to be done in a collaborative way. And what we have done as Malawi is to assume the coordination role to ensure that the spaces are provided and their voices are taken into task. Thank you so much, Director. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamera. Really glad to hear what Malawi is doing. Amazing. engaging girls and having Girls Summit at the national level. That's amazing. So next we have, because it's engaging girls and young people, now we are engaging them at the continental level. And we have a group of young people. So because you guys are young, I'm going to ask you to do, I wish we can do emoji kind of presentation, but that's not possible. So I'm going to ask you to just do a little bit faster because we don't have time, or we have like less than 30 minutes to finish up here. So I'm going to start with Tilahun, Miss Tilahun. I'm going to pronounce your first name. So Miss Tilahun, a youth advocate from Ethiopia. Okay, how can we, including myself, we ensure girls and young women involvement, especially those in the rural area, towards the attainment of sustainable development goals, in particular SDG 4 and 5. And my young person who was supposed to co-moderate in this meeting, is she in, Loveness? Not yet. So Mr. Telahun, kindly, are you able to tell us how can we ensure, especially girls in the rural area, this is something I hear over and over, that we engage urban girls, but we don't engage girls in rural areas. Ms. Telahun, Widasi Mariam, I think that's how it's pronounced. Yes. Go ahead.
That's the right way. My name is Widasi Mariam, and I'm representing the use of my country, Ethiopia. The question, I heard the question. And as we all know, the use is the most powerful and the most engaging and source of positive growth for our country, in our country. And to ensure girls and women involvement, especially in rural areas, where we firstly have to create awareness among the girls in the rural area that they are capable of doing and achieving what they want and changing the world in our country. So to give women to equality and quality education, the first and big challenge is working on the mindset of the society as a whole. Advocacy must be made to amplify for people to understand these goals. They are really that these goals are really personal for each of us, and it's really crucial and urgent. This will help us to bring change in the society. Our work should be strengthened in the rural community, in the rural community to outreach, so that the rural woman would get represented and also get the right chance and get engaged enough to represent themselves and to advocate for education and quality. The youth in our country has a really great potential and willingness to support and improve the education, which can serve their community through organizing and mobilizing material, physical and financial resources, volunteering, organizing social media campaigns, and also collaborating with the community to mobilize support to build maybe schools or libraries or any kind of platform which will be a safe space for the woman who has been suffering of past violences, and also by building their capacity to influence others and being source of motivation. The other is that the people who in our country, in developing countries especially, it's a privilege to enter and go to the universities. So people who got the chance to do so will be praised and seen as a lead in the society. So going to rural areas and motivating those girls and also trying to change the minds of the society will be very impactful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And what do you think is the role of young people, especially girls, in achieving gender equality and ensuring access to quality education? Wadusa Miriam, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that name correctly.
Yeah. Thank you. I had a connection problem. Can you please repeat the question again?
What is the role of young women and young people in ensuring equality and in ensuring equality and access to quality education?
The role is a huge one, which can be seen as a main way, as the right way to change that, to achieve this SDG goals of 4 and 5. Specifically, the roles could be, as I have said before, it could be organizing and mobilizing the society or the community, which is by which can be through material or physical or some financial resources. Having those, the youth or the woman will have a great role to will change the minds of the societies firstly, because what we are having as a problem is the society do not believe in the use of education, and also the how important it is for their lives and for their children. So changing this in the rural areas and also in the urban areas sometimes is really important. So the role of the woman will be doing this. They could also empower other women, especially women. Getting and empowering other women would be really important. It's the right way to do, to empower women, so that they could come to the stage and empower others, and also get empowered and change the society. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have another young person from Ghana, Princess. Hi, Princess. I think I saw you earlier. So I think you start by building up on what Dusaina has said. What is the role of young people? Okay. And then also I want to, what are the opportunities and challenges influencing the level of engagement of girls and young people towards the realization of all SDGs, but in specifically SDG 4 and 5? What do you think are the roles? What are the opportunities? What can girls and young women do? Okay. And how can we raise awareness among young people about SDGs? So I know it's a couple of questions, but I know you're a superstar. You're able to answer all of them. Princess?
Hello, please, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so my name is Princess Wabiatete. So let me go straight to the point. And I would like to resonate this, that achieving the SDGs is not only the duty of government, it's the duty of everyone, both non-state actors, citizens, the private sector, everyone is involved. Now, we, the youth, are the major fragment of the global population. Therefore, our voice is very important when it comes to decision making, especially in this VNR process. So it has to come with a holistic approach. And right now, with the issues of women and girls, we are asking that we mainstream gender into every activity of our policies, of our plans, of our legislation. When we do this, we are actually having inclusive policies that is equitable, that is quality, and that involves everyone's voice. Because we can't do without the voice of women, we can't do without the voice of girls, we can't do without the voice of the youth, because we are the major aspect and the holders of the future of this world. Hence, it is very important we are involved in decision making. Now, for Ghana, especially for the Sustainable Development Goals, we now have platforms, especially for the civil society organization side, that is on all the 17 goals. And we have an extra one, which is 18, which characterizes the youth platform. So this platform engages youth in every sector on how we can put our voice out there to ensure that there is youth sustainability. And also with the gender aspect, you have gender platforms that are doing gender mainstreaming with budgeting, with planning to ensure that the voices of women and girls are heard. So last year, during the COVID period, between 2020 and 2021, there was this project by GIZ in partnership with Ghana Statistical Service, the Ministry of Gender, Children, Women and Social Protection, that brought about an app, including civil society organizations. So this app collects a data on gender-based violence. So it is the duty of the GSS to collect the data. So the CSOs go into the various communities to collect issues on gender-based violence, be it rape, defilement, or whatever issue that is on gender-based violence. And now it behoves on the civil society organization platform or the duty bearers to ensure that there is awareness creation on the SDGs, which is goal 4 and goal 5, and some other relevant issues. So with this in action, it's helping Ghana collect relevant data, real-time data on gender issues cutting across all sectors in Ghana. So I think it's a way forward. When we first have the data that we need in relation to the issues that are present, then we can now develop policies, plans, legislation that can promote the goal 4 and goal 5 of the Sustainable Development Goals. I hope I have answered this question in the right way. Or if there is any other question that I have to answer, if you can please remind me. Hello.
Thank you so much, Princess. Thank you so much. I think you have answered the question. I was busy taking notes, and I love the fact that you have a platform where young people and especially girls are able to be engaged in sustainable development conversation. Now we have, I think, is it the only guy? Okay, we had some earlier. We have Mr. Francis Ametie Pay, also from Ghana. Francis, from a young person, a young man's perspective, why do you think youth involvement in monitoring and review processes is essential for the success of SDGs? Someone needs to mute. Loveness, please kindly mute. Francis, did you have a question? Francis, are you there? Did you hear the question? Francis? Francis?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you so much. Did you hear the question?
Sorry, come again.
Okay, so I'm going to come to. So as a young man, okay, as a youth, why do you think youth involvement is in monitoring and review process is essential in the success of SDGs? And then as you answer that, I also want you to know, how can young people be involved? Okay, so it is important, yes, but how can they be involved? And how can you suggest, like, what are the suggestions? How can they capacitate young people to be able to be involved in the monitoring and and review process of the SDGs? Go ahead, Francis.
Great. Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, and of course all the partners for putting together this event to amplify your voices for girls and young women on access to education and gender equality. I am Francis Ametepe from Youth Advocate Ghana, the African Youth SDG Summit Secretariat. And then on your first question, which says, why do you think youth involvement in the monitoring and review process is very essential? I must state that the SDGs as it is represent the youth. In Africa, for instance, the largest population ever remained to be the youth, with over 70% under age 30. And this was rightly indicated by Ms. Frecia Kagu from FAWI in his opening remark. What it means is that it makes it very pivotal for the youth to be part of the SDGs conversation, from the planning, implementation, monitoring, and its accountability processes. So right from the onset, young people remain very essential if the SDGs are to be achieved. Now, how essential are young people to this whole process? One thing that I will note is that the involvement of youth in the monitoring review process most often guide youth activism pathways towards a sustainable future. What do I mean by this is that young people are mostly engaged in advocacy processes, mostly in policy engagement. They are influencing policies to ensure that what is actually happening at the community levels are the right thing. They are creating innovative initiatives to ensure that most of their initiatives that they are bringing are tailored towards addressing the gaps that are identified in the SDG implementation process. Now, if young people are not involved in this whole process, if young people are not involved in the voluntary national review process, they are unable to understand the gaps that they have identified and how they can creatively or they can birth innovative solutions to address these challenges. So young people right from the onset are very important. They need to be part before they can even engage policy decisions to make sure it reflects the reality. And then secondly, your question was how can the involvement of young people in the SDG within the context of the your second question, but let me try to respond. In many countries, many government institutions are doing their very best to ensure that key stakeholders within their countries are involved in their consultations and even SDG frameworks. They try to bring on board very key stakeholders who are very influential to whichever project they want to carry out. However, much attention, time, focus needs to be given to the direct beneficiaries of their interventions. And a good example is if, for instance, a country is developing a new curriculum for their educational issues, they need to really pay much attention to people such as the students' body, the lecturers, and other school authorities. Most often what we see is that most of the engagements are done with educational experts who are outside the education. So they don't really understand the actual situation within the educational space. However, try to bring their expertise on board, which sometimes do not really favor the policy and its implementation. And once young people are not really involved in the process, they don't take ownership of the whole policy and try to even ensure that it is achieved one way or the other. Let me share a practical experience. Myself, I was part of the SDG consultation that was held in 2015, the post-2015 consultation that fed into the African Common Position paper, which finally fed into the formation of the SDGs. Since that stage, I've been part of the process because I felt my voice was heard at that stage, at the initial stage when they were consulting people to feed into the formation of the SDGs. So with this passion, I keep championing, I keep advocating and ensuring that young people are in the part of the conversation and young people can actually own the process and ensure that the SDGs is finally achieved. And then in terms of what I would suggest to state and non-state actors, including NGOs and other people, I feel that partnership is very fundamental in the realization of the SDGs. So both state and non-state actors should learn how to collaborate and how to collaborate in building the capacity of young people. Young people, once young people are empowered, they are able to own the process of transformation themselves, and they will deliver without any hesitation. We need to learn how state and non-state actors can come together to collaborate, to build programs and frameworks that will be very beneficial to young people. Because I believe that once young people are able to receive the necessary empowerment or the necessary support, they need no other support to implement it. All they needed is guide. Once young people are given the necessary guide, they are able to implement their innovative solutions that address most of the challenges that will be identified in the voluntary national review report. I will end here unless there are other questions for me to respond to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to check if Loveness is back. Loveness, are you back? She is not back. So thank you so much, our panelists. I'm just going to give 2 minutes. Basically. Oh, Loveness, you're back. Perfect. You can take over.
If only I knew where he had left. Thank you so much, Jenny, for taking over. I believe all our youth panelists had all spoken. Did we have any other speakers to speak? If you can confirm. Jenny.
No, all the speakers have done your Q&A for 2 minutes.
Okay, great, wonderful. So as I'm looking at our time right now, we are only left with about 20 minutes, 30 minutes really, to do our question and answer session. So I would like to invite everyone on the to the question and answer, our discussion session right now on any questions on anything that has been discussed with the panelists. If we can raise our hands or write our questions on the charts, and our panelists will be able to quickly respond. So we will be looking at the charts, and if there is any questions, any contributions, any remarks, anything. Okay, so I see a hand by Getshu Adamu. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, thank you. Just to complement one point from Ethiopia, specifically in 2021, the Ministry of Women and Social Affairs established a National Youth Council. So this youth came from rural and urban areas. So they are supposed to contribute, provide advisory service for the government, and also systematically participated in various sectoral discussions. So just to share these developments, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Geshu. Thank you so much for that complimentary remark. Mr. Minyame, you are raising your hand up. Yes, please.
Just to add 2 points, specifically on the platform of that ensure participation of women, young girls, with respect to the SDG implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. I think we have a platform of that brings. Sorry. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, we have the girls platform at school level. We have girls club at all school in Ethiopia. So this through this club, representatives were engaged were engaged before in the SDG implementation in the planning process, and also we have the child parliament forum at all school. Through this platform, women and young girls is being represented and was also represented on the SDG implementation process. And the other point I want to highlight that specifically onto girls' education. At the country level, we have faced we have many challenges, specifically on dropout of younger girls at tertiary level, meaning at college and university level. So to avoid this dropout and to ensure the net enrollment of young girls, and as well as to enhance the competency level of young girls, we have a program, a mentorship program. This mentorship program is already initiated by the ministry and the Minister of Education, the Her Excellency Madam President of the country, Salor Zaudi, and the mentorship program. The essence of the mentorship about the mentee is the senior successful women, and they coached the student, and based on this coaching, according to the previous evaluation, the academic achievement of the girls increased by almost by considerable percentage. So we have this program will one of the best experience we have, and I will be happy that this platform to have or to support young girls mentorship program at the in Ethiopia, and also we also want to have this program specifically on other countries, in this is also the other ones. And also I want to and specifically women, just to highlight on our previous presentation, we have big leadership program at national level funded by different donors and agencies. So the main objective of this program is just to create pool of women leaders at national levels because of the fact that am I taking the time? Shall I continue?
Mr. Mini, we have 2 minutes. We don't have time, so, and we need the girls to read something as part of an outcome for this meeting. So I would kindly just cut you off. And
okay,
so I am sorry, Mr. Banu Kanu. If you can be able to put your comments in the chat box, we really appreciate. So next, I'm going to invite what that name, please help me. Wadiseme to be able to read the statement that they have prepared. Wadiseme, if you can read the statement.
Okay. We girls and young women from Africa meeting at the side event of African Summit on Voluntary National Review emphasize that Africa has the highest number of young people, with 70% are below the age of 30 years. We cannot receive all the Sustainable Development Goals if girls and young people are not educated and are living in world of equality. Inequality undermines the achievement of all Sustainable Development Goals. The SDGs are for young people. It makes pivotal for the engagement of the young people in the planning, implementing, and monitoring of SDGs. Issues. We have identified the following issues. Our budget allocation is not to the youth who are majority and our future. To achieve the development, we need to bring everyone to the table. Education has to be free, accessible, and equitable. COVID-19 pushed lots of girls and young women to inequality and pulled back nutrition. Malnutrition has a huge effect on access to education for girls and young women. Sanitation and hygiene at school is barrier for many girls and young people accessing education. Livelihood, creating an enabling environment and building the capacity of women and girls to be part of the leadership. A lot of girls and young women are forced into teenage pregnancy and early marriage as a result of economic hardship. We must rethink and radicalize education to reach the most marginalized and especially girls in rural areas. Achieving the SDGs is not the role of government only, but everyone and especially girls and young women. Recommendations. COVID-19, the programming of COVID-19 must integrate the education of girls and young women who have been impacted by COVID-19. Educate girls and young women and ensure that it's gender responsive, promoting education and economic opportunities, behavior change education from community level, engagement of girls, sanitary facilities in school as part of access to education, girls' participation where girls share ideas, raise awareness among girls and especially those in the rural areas of SDGs, mobilizing resources and support in achieving the goals, building the capacity to engage with leaders, monitoring of young people, mainstream gender in everything. We cannot do without the voice of young people and especially girls. What we will do as a girl and young woman: one, first, organizing and mobilizing the community for the community. Second, empower other women. Third, platform for all the 17 goals and especially the one of young people with gender lens. Fourth, collaborate with each other to create sustainable projects. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wadsime. Thank you so much, everyone. We have like 1 minute to go, and I'm going to invite Zemzem, who is going to tell us what we are going to do with this amazing document. We just don't need to be like a document, but there is a plan to do this document. Zemzem?
Thank you so much, Jenny, for and also Loveless for wonderful moderation. Thank you so much, team from Breakfree Africa Regional Program. Thank you all as a panelist and also the youth who are really very, very amazing. So I just would like to reassure you that we as a Breakfree Africa Regional Program will take into consideration those recommendations that are the results of this side event will be put into part of our plan as this program is engaged or mostly focused on girls and young women. So we will also plan in our activity planning and action planning so that we will make sure that these are being implemented, and also we'll follow up with our stakeholders and partners as where we can go with it in terms of SDG 4 and SDG 5. So I think this would be something that we can see and also concretize in terms of implementation as well as following up. And again, these side events will also be input into the major summit that would be happening from 3rd to 5th of March in Kigali. So yeah, these are something that I would like to say. Thank you, Jenny, and over to you.
Thank you so much. The outcome statement will be posted after we have panel beat it a bit because we are putting it very fast. Thank you so much, the ECA service guys, for the hosting us. We really appreciate for the extra 2 minutes. We really, and everybody who participated, our interpreters, the organizers, we really, really appreciate our participants and for the engagement. Thank you and God bless you. Let's see you next week during the summit. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.